Okay, and where's on this? There's also
I think there's a button up top.
Yeah, let's make sure. So this is actually perfect. Check that out.
I think it's once you hit that,
Yeah?
and then it should start timing.
You got to edit out the first 3 minutes of the video.
Yeah, how's it going to be with the volume? So,
That should pick up fine.
Flip a coin who wants to go first.
why don't you just go quick with do our intro here and open it up?
Who wants to be asked first? Is it up? Is it on? Good evening. We come to you from the rec room here in Ian's building. We are 10 days. We are 10 days away from the 2012 election in which Barack Obama and Mitt Romney, after over $2 billion spent in this election cycle, and we will find out who will be the next president of the United States. He is a law school student at Pace. It's John Scheer. He is a tow truck driver, Dennis McGowan, from both sides of the aisle. Now, we all have different views at this table. Let's start out with John Scheer, since you're the incumbent. John, tell me why Barack Obama deserves 4 more years in office.
Well, I think the president has done amazing things in terms of when it comes to alternative energy, and I very much think that that's the wave of the future. I think the president has a vision for the future, and I think that Mitt Romney is using a whole bunch of recycled ideas.
Like what?
Well, the idea that tax cuts are somehow going to somehow turn around the economy. I mean, we've seen that before. We've seen that under President Bush.
Let's be clear about one thing. The last 6 months of the Bush administration, let's say March 2008, when the Bear Stearns bailout started and whatnot, and the market started to go down and the gas prices were up, they were bad. 9/11 happened, the economy was in recession. You had frictional unemployment for about 4 years, where anyone who wanted a job could find it. That's not completely due to tax policy. No president has that much effect on policy. A lot of that was the housing bubble. A lot of that was artificial growth that didn't belong. But when Democrats, liberals, Obama say that policy that's never worked before, recycled ideas, you're talking about policy that gave us 5 years of growth. I don't know the exact number. You're saying 46 months of growth. Some of it artificial, but we weren't in a recession for 8 years under George W. Bush.
True, we weren't in a recession for 8 years.
And to the old economic theory of disposable income, which is the amount of money that you make minus your expenses, that's your disposable income. You get disposable income up, you're going to get the economy to turn around. It's a simple way. I'm sure it's deeper than that. But I don't understand how taking money out of the economy will create jobs. I don't understand how, and I'm not going to say that hedge fund.
On the flip side of that, though, too, you have to agree when you reduce federal spending, you also suck up a lot of money out of the economy as well.
Okay, but federal spending creates less jobs than private spending.
Well, we've lost 500,000. If we hadn't lost 500,000 government jobs under President Obama, we would actually see unemployment. It would be probably about a percentage point lower than it is now.
6.8.
So, I mean, the idea that government doesn't necessarily create jobs, but it can help. I mean, when you think about it, when you're saying disposable income, those 500,000 people spend money. Those 500,000 people buy things. Those 500,000 people are out, as consumers in the economy, and that's the whole issue. It's not so much that tax cuts do not spur economic growth. It's who you're giving the tax cuts to. You're giving the tax cuts. This
is another fallacy that the Obama campaign has come up with, that in their right mind, in anyone's right mind, any Republican would raise taxes on the middle class during a recession. That day one, January 21st, 2013, Mitt Romney will go to the Senate, and your tax bill is going to go up. Trillionaires, tax cuts are going to go. It'll be across the board.
It'll be across the board, but it's an issue of fairness. Who should be the one to receive? We have a federal deficit. We have certainly a spending problem in this country. But
we can all agree on that.
I think we can all agree on that. But I do think that if you're going, you have to ask the top earners to. I mean, we're not asking for a huge amount here. We're asking to a restoration of the tax that were during the Clinton years.
Now you say fairness.
20 million jobs created.
A lot due to the internet boom. a lot due to the internet boom. All right, so what did Bill Clinton do specifically that spurred job growth? Because I hear about this a lot, this boom, and Bush came with a surplus, and Clinton created. What did Bill Clinton do?
Well, what Clinton did was you're right when you say that the internet was the primary.
The majority.
It was. And and it probably did create an artificial bubble temporarily as well.
Which exploded.
Which yeah, I agree. It did explode before, right? Well, as Clinton was leaving.
No, it exploded after George W. Bush was inaugurated.
Well, and when we say exploded,
the recession began under George W. Bush.
You can't really compare the recession in 2001 to the recession.
No one else.
I mean, it was the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression here. But what Clinton did was, and I think what Obama is trying to do in terms of alternative energy, and in terms of Bill Clinton and Al Gore recognized the value when it came to advanced technologies in this country, and he loosened regulations on certain things, but he also invested in the infrastructure. He invested in promoting the internet.
Do you think government is the best entity to promote new means of energy and new alternative fuels? Do you think the government is really the best entity to produce new forms of energy, or the private sector, which has done it for hundreds of years?
Well,
the Rockefellers, the Carnegies, the Thomas guys.
They had, in all fairness, they did have government incentives.
They had government incentives.
They did have. I mean, they received low.
But it wasn't government-paid scientists. It wasn't government-paid, government-owned corporations that were creating oil, creating kerosene. These were individuals with power and with drive to go out and create what was needed when whale oil in the 1800s was becoming scarce. People came up with the idea of kerosene, oil lamps. It wasn't the government that funded these ideas. It was the private sector. It was people with means and ingenuity who came up with the ideas. The government did not back them.
Well, you come up with ideas. There are always people that come up with ideas, but government primarily invests in research. When it comes to when for example, when we had the internet, government highly invested in research and development. You then have venture capitalists because government places the seeds in terms of research. Then you have venture capital that picks up the seeds that are growing and says which ones are commercially viable. There's a difference, but I think that government does have a responsibility to promote the research aspect of it. And when it came to fossil fuel development, it's true that there were these individuals, but there were also government policies that promoted it. You had, before the turn of the century, most cars were electric cars. But then we had the political interests at the time who said, oil is better for our economy right now, so what we're going to do is we're going to promote the construction of gas stations. We have government subsidizing pipelines. We have government subsidizing the cargo ship, the tanker ships. We have.
Now you talked about this today.
Yeah, we have government that's in the Middle East defending our oil interests, which is a cost that oil companies do not have to pay.
Now you say the government is subsidizing the oil industry and whatnot, low interest loans, no interest on the loans. Now what would be the effect of the government not subsidizing? What would be the effect of a politician going to ExxonMobil and saying, we're not going to pay this for you? Who gets hurt first?
The consumer.
Like, you're looking at $4 to $5 a gallon for gas.
I don't know $4.
You're talking about
$8 to
$7 or $8
$10 a gallon.
Now you're very big on
the UK.
But the argument, but then you can't say that we shouldn't promote alternative energies because they can't compete in the free market when you're acknowledging that the market isn't free. When you're subsidizing one, you either have to subsidize across the board to make it a free market, or you have to remove the subsidies to the other. So I'm not saying
the effects of removing a subsidy from oil, we'd see $9.
Well,
short-term effects would be $9. I personally feel with green energy, and we've taken college classes, Queens College, and all the professors, especially environmental ones, they get really excited on electric cars and a 300-mile electric highway, and it's very exciting to them.
Electric cars are not a viable solution.
I would just I would disagree on that. I mean, they're the most efficient. They're the most efficient vehicles we have on the market now. Even when they're produced with the dirtiest source of coal, they're the most efficient. They're more efficient.
But the production cost to create the electric vehicles is enormously high compared to a gasoline vehicle. So the consumer that is purchasing the electric vehicle over the gasoline vehicle is now paying a $5,000 to $12,000 premium on the vehicle. Now, to see a return on what you're spending on gasoline compared to electricity, you need to own that car for 15 years before you see a return on your investment. Where is the benefit for the consumer?
Well, I mean, that's because of economies of scale. If you promote it enough, if you invest in something long enough and they produce more, the greater the rate of production, the greater the rate of efficiency, because you realize where you can streamline the entire.
But as a consumer now, where is the value in me going out to buy an electric car? Yeah, I'm saving on fuel day to day, but I'm paying a $5,000 to $12,000 premium up front when I purchase that car. Where is the benefit of me buying a vehicle?
Well, I agree that the benefit hasn't been completely established right now, but also what we need to do is we need to spur the demand for it, which is going to lower the overall cost for everybody. And what you do with that is you invest in the infrastructure. You know, I recently wrote a report on this actually in
It's in Time Magazine.
It's appearing in the
Time Magazine.
Planning and Law Division Journal of the American Planning Association on electric car infrastructure. And there are some places that you cannot build it simply because it's zoned out. And Washington is the most progressive state when it comes to electric vehicles. Washington has a law that says every municipality has to allow electric car infrastructure within the majority of their zoning districts. And they've also been subsidizing the electric highway.
As a state or federal?
Well, I think it's a joint project. They've also received federal money. But you have to promote the development at the infrastructure level in order to, and at the same time, because there'll never be a demand for them if there's no infrastructure, because people are afraid of that. There'll never be infrastructure unless there's demand for it. So that's where the government has.
Now, you're very big on this green energy and the infrastructure and the new cars and solar power, and I truly believe there would be no recession. There wouldn't even be an election right now if the first thing President Barack Obama did, besides part of the Kanye, when he came into office, was done better.
The stimulus.
I would not run on the fact, I'm not a politician, but I would not work on the fact that the stimulus was a failure. I think you could look at the numbers, and we're at 7.8% unemployment right now. There's a very good chance we might have been at 12 and 13. And the same way things trickle down in the economy, there could have been a snowballing effect of 14 to 15% if there was no stimulus. I just personally feel that the stimulus was done in the wrong fashion. I agree with tax cuts for middle-class Americans. I think that was a success. Money to states to keep teachers, firemen, police officers, other state workers, and to shore up their books, success. I do not think there was enough money given to shovel-ready projects, I guess. I don't think, and I think most liberal economists, Paul Krugman being one, would agree with me, that the stimulus package wasn't big enough.
Yeah, most.
I think 789, I think you had to hit 1.2 trillion on that. And I think you had to throw it into the economy now, and...
Well, here's another reason why.
I apologize for interrupting, but you talk about infrastructure.
That's what I was going to just...
You could have built it right then and there. There was too much incentives. You know, of the $787 billion, a lot of it wasn't pure spending. A lot of it was money that the government would not get back in the rolls of taxes by using incentives. So we'll give you this. I don't know the exact ones, but we're going to take in less taxes to incentivize people to do things for green energy. And I think that's a bad idea. I think you could have built a bridge from where we just came from to the bar we were all at yesterday, gotten 25 people to build it, and that would have stimulated the economy. When you're in a recession bordering on a depression, this is the Great Recession. It could have been the Great Depression round 2. You need to think outside the box and take a few chances or whatnot. And I don't think Barack Obama did that. I think the stimulus package was too safe. And just as when conservatives argue that once Barack Obama came into office, he immediately started doing his healthcare plan and he didn't
Well, he tried
focus on
to,
the
he tried
recession.
to.
And that's